I'm Deborah, this is Cassie, and this is Jessica. We did our presentation on William Bradford and his work of Plymouth Plantation, which is a written account of his experiences coming over to the New World. William Bradford was born in Yorkshire, England, on March 19th in the, what do they call it? Actually, Austerfield, England, in the Yorkshire farming community. He was an orphan at a very early age. He lost his father by the age of 1, and then he lost his mother a few years later. Being raised by various family members, he was raised to be a farmer, although he became attracted to a group of Puritists or separatists of Puritans because of their religious beliefs and preachings that he believed in. They were led by pastors John Robinson and William Brewster. He had become completely dedicated to this group of pilgrims at the age of 17. They were eventually moved to separate from the Church of England. They were pushed out, basically. They were harassed and threatened. Lots of issues there. There's William Brewster and John Robinson. Sorry, you guys can't see it. And he became somewhat of a leader for the group when they separated from the Church of England. A goofy little animation. His first wife was Dorothy May. It was said that she died on the Mayflower before they actually completed their voyage. There was discrepancies over whether she actually fell overboard or she committed suicide, but he doesn't talk about her much in his writings. This tombstone actually has several of the passengers from the Mayflower of 1620. And then, of course, we all know that he completely orchestrated the Mayflower voyage, pretty much entirely himself. Of course, he served for governor for over 30 years. And I wish you guys could see this figure, I'm so sorry. This is a map just showing the colony itself, how it was originally established, and a timeline of how it grew, and the steps that they took and the directions that they moved. And I think that's pretty much it for biography. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry, he had one more wife. He did have one more wife, and her name was, she's on here, Alice Carpenter Southworth. She was actually a widow. Her husband passed away after they came over to the New World. She was a member of another group of separatists, and they ended up having 3 children together. He had a total of 4. She had a child previously also. So next to the history with Cassie.
The history of Bradford and of Plymouth Plantation. I'm reading closely. In 1608, the separatists go to Holland so they can worship God as they please. In July of 20th of 1620, the Speedwell leaves Holland to meet with the Mayflower. But whenever it left, it actually started leaking, and they returned, and then the Mayflower was the only one that could leave. He had to leave without the Speedwell. So here's the whole timeline of it. And at the end, the pilgrims in 1627 they faced through with the Indians. Here's the pilgrim man. He wore his pilgrim hat. He had cuffs on his sleeves. He wore boots and stockings, like much of what you would think a pilgrim would wear. The woman would wear waistcoats and aprons and petticoats. Here's the picture I drew of the Mayflower. The pilgrims, they ate mussels, corn, fish, barley, and wheat. On the ship, according to dailyencouragement.com, they ate cheese, dried peas, and really hard biscuits. Doesn't sound very appetizing. And the Indians would eat pretty much anything wild. They would kill their own food. They would have deer, rabbits, just anything they could find.
I had the sociology for the book, and I guess the 2 primary groups, well, you would have the separatists or pilgrims, and then of course you had the Native Americans, which they, I cannot pronounce it, the Native Americans that they encountered when they initially came here were the Wampanoag, I believe. And of course, like you said, there's several differences in their wardrobe. The Indians wore a lot of their own resources from animals. They used all parts of the animal that they could. They ate what they could. They wore what they could. And of course, the Pilgrims were just really excessive with everything. At first, the Indians really didn't interact with the Pilgrims a lot. They were more skittish of them. They kept their distance, but still stayed close by to watch them, to see what they were all about. Eventually, Bradford became friends with two, and Samoset and Squanto, only one of them being English-speaking. But they helped the colonists by giving them helpful information, exchanging trade and ideas, and teaching them how to cultivate the land and things like that. They, skills that were vital for their survival to the new colony. Squanto ultimately lived with the Pilgrims for the remainder of his life. And of course, this is most significant because, without the cooperation of the Indians, who knows where we would be now in this country, if we would even have made it this far into this country. And of course, we have our Thanksgiving because they had our first Thanksgiving. Explication?
Now I have explication.
Oh yeah, we brought these snacks too. This is pretty much to symbolize, the pilgrim has to symbolize what the wardrobe that the Pilgrims shared and the Indians, of course, and then a popcorn, of course, the corn shared, that was what the Indians shared with us.
Okay, I have explication. A Plymouth plantation was written over a period of almost 20 years, from 1630 to 1647. And throughout the text, there really wasn't figurative language used because it was mainly just stuff that he seen. It wasn't anything fictional that he wrote about. It was just stuff that was like a journal. He was actually the governor of Plymouth Plantation. Most people know that. That's what he's most famous for. So his writing was very straightforward. Like I said, it was the exact things he seen, and it wasn't anything fictional. When they got here, they really didn't know a lot. They wasn't sure how to survive. They didn't know how to grow food, so they needed the Indians to teach them how to do it. It was a very different environment from what they were used to. It's a different culture. They weren't used to it. So luckily, Samoset came and welcomed them here. And then later on, Squanto came and taught them how to grow their food. He taught them how to grow corn, and taught them how to fish and hunt and cultivate corn. But the two main characters in this text were obviously the Pilgrims and the Indians. The Indians were actually shy of the Pilgrims at first. They didn't really want to come around, but after they did, they actually became friends, and the Indians helped them survive. Actually, during the winter, the first winter on the new land, most of them, or a lot of them, almost half of them died of starvation because of enough food. And the plot really explains the voyage of how the Pilgrims came over on the Mayflower to find a new land so they could worship freely and have a better life. And let's see. And whenever they came over here, you know how they had to scavenge for food? So I brought little cups of dried fruit and nuts and stuff like they would eat. And I actually had to put granola and stuff in it so y'all would actually eat it. And I know y'all wouldn't really like it if it was just plain Jane stuff that he used to eat. So, anyways.
Well, this just